Hello, everyone, and this is one of my author's chats of the week, and I'm going to keep my eye out for my co-host, and if I sneeze or sniffle along the way this hour, I apologize. It's a very, very high pollen count outside, and I have been fighting all that this week, especially since I have been working in the garden and dealing with lots of lovely plants outside in the pollen for hours. But thankfully it was a lovely weekend this past week, and I hope everybody else was able to get out and enjoy and have some fun. And we'll be talking about books, writing, publishing, and everything in between momentarily. I'm going to send my little invite to my co-host. I see that she is out and about. Hello! And we'll get things going, hopefully, in just a moment. Let's see. The invite goes. Make sure my volume's up. I always be here. Hello, hello?
Hi, I'm here. I'm trying to figure out how to get my camera going again.
It's okay. I never can figure out like how to suggest that because I'm usually the one who invites people, and but I know that's a common thing that automatically starts on your little icon. So don't worry, take your time. We'll figure it out. Hi.
Found it. Hi.
Well, thank you for joining
There we
me
go.
today. I know it's I don't know what time zone you're in, but it's the middle of the afternoon for me. So thank you for taking some of your time out to come out and hang out for this next hour.
Yeah, I'm
And
Eastern Standard as well, so.
Perfect. And I think I have a little bit of a lag, so I'll try to pause and make sure you hear everything so I don't cut you off. That would be terrible. But since I don't know if you've ever listened to any of my lives before, it's pretty simple. We're just casually talking, and if any bookish questions pop up, we'll answer them. And I always like to start off by letting my co-host of the week, which is you today, introduce yourself and what you write, and we'll go from there.
All right, sounds great. Well, I am author Dianah Brock, and I write paranormal suspense with a little touch of romance. I am not a romance writer. It's just an aspect. So I like to clear that up because I've had people go, "Oh my God, there's no romance in there. You said romance." So I was like, I said it was a thing, not a thing.
Yes.
So I
Well,
like to
that's
clear that up
neat.
that way. Disappointed.
Well, how many books in that genre have you written in paranormal/paranormal romance?
I have done one, two. I'm having to count them off the top of my head. 3, 4, 6. I have children's books too, so I can't like if you ask me how many books I published, I'll tell you, oh, 13. I'll say
Nice.
13. But when you ask me specific genres, I have to think about it because I have like 5 children's books and 1 indie author self-help book that I've published. So
That's
I
impressive.
actually do have to think it through.
So, what inspired you to then write? Those are very drastically different genres in many people's minds. So, what came first, the paranormal/paranormal romance, or is it children's books, or how did you get into this? Because I also saw on your page, your platform, that you do a lot. It looks like you have multiple jobs, so you keep busy.
I do. And I've actually got to redo my profile a little bit. I did property management for about 15 years, and my doctor has recently pulled me out of work for good. So now it looks like I'm full-time writer, and paparazzi consultant is only on there until I clear out the stock. I haven't actually actively sold paparazzi in almost 2 years, but I do have a lot of jewelry up. So it's in there to get rid of it. I'm in the process of marking it down so that I never have to look at it again because I've just seen so much of it. I can't stand to look at it anymore.
Let me just one
So
second.
I will be focusing on writing and marketing.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm in the process of moving, and I still have some art that I'm supposed to hang on the wall on the floor. And my dog just came and bumped it, and I just saw it teetering, and I was like, "Let me catch that." So apologies for stepping out of screen for a moment there. But yeah, so how did you get into the children's books and writing in that?
So the children's books came along because I have 3 kids, and back when they were young, I could not get 2 of them to read, 2 of the 3. My oldest loves to read, but my middle child and my youngest child could not stand it. So
Mm-hmm.
I started writing books specifically for them and made them characters in the books and publishing them around Christmas and ordering them. So that was how I did the children's books. I haven't done any more since, like, well, my youngest daughter got out of it after 3 years. So I have 3 that are illustrated and 2 chapter books that are children's books. And then I haven't touched them since because, well, they're grown now. My youngest is now 16 and my middle child is now 20. So,
Hey, I can only speak for myself. I mean, this is why one of the reasons why I became an author is like, who doesn't want to be a character in a book? I don't know. Some people, probably the smart ones, are like, why would I do that? But for me, I'm like, I would love to be characters in multiple books.
right? And as an author, that's actually kind of one of the fun things is because we always put a little bit of ourselves in our
Hmm.
characters for character development. Um, like I have one that's more. I always say paranormal slash supernatural because I also have a zombie apocalypse series I'm working on. And my main character, that book got started during my second divorce, and it was a healing process for me. So it was to pull all of the aspects of who I was before that marriage back out from where it was buried. And I realized a lot of that about halfway through writing it. I was like, oh, she sounds very familiar. And I've noticed we do that. We put little pieces of ourselves in the stories that we write, whether it's characters or places or anything like that.
And no, that's very true. Both in the fact of you writers having aspects themselves, or even full blown putting themselves in the book. I've done that before, but at least the very least aspects, be it personality or how you think and view the world, they do pop up in your characters, and just the way you develop the world and the situations, it does kind of lean back to the writer and the writer's life. Of course, writing and healing is well, I wouldn't say popular thing, but it is something that a lot of people are doing, and I think it's a wonderful thing because it is a great way to kind of introspectively look at yourself, how you've been coping, and hopefully heal with whatever you're trying to get through. So that's a pretty big feat, and especially if you are able to be aware enough to be like, oh, that was me, and this is how I'm handling that situation.
It felt good when I got to that point and I realized, oh wow, this was me. This was who I was. I write very strong female characters, and I'm Southern, so I it's natural for me to write strong female characters because it's all I've ever seen. Women down here are a different kind of strength, um, and sorry about that. Um, so that's where most of my stories focus on. I focus on the strength that women have that they didn't acquire in spite of something. My characters are just strong from the beginning. They just seem to tap into more knowledge and more adaptation on how to use it. Um, and I think we need a lot more of that today, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
We really
definitely.
do.
And there that characters are supposed to grow, and people talk about story arcs and character development, and they are supposed to grow and change throughout, or find discovery or something along the way. You don't want a character to necessarily be the same at the end of the book. Some books are like that, and that's if that's your intent, but for the most part they change. Now it is nice to see a character start off pretty confident, pretty strong, and aren't one of those, which
Yeah.
a lot of people also like, but aren't one of those characters that need help being saved essentially from the beginning, and can start off, with a leg up on that kind of scenario or type.
And see, I had to think about it. I saw the thing with Reese Witherspoon that went around for a long time when she was talking about she could not stand to have a female character in a book, a movie, or anything. Turns and looks at a man and goes, "What do we do now?" And I'm like, "Yes, those are my women. Every one of them. They're all like that." they're all the leaders, all the confident people, all the ones that think outside the box. It just incorporates everything else. That because we're more than just mothers, and honestly, that's why I don't write romance. I like to read it, but I don't write it, and I don't write it because we're more than just the romance. We want more out of life than just romance. So I make us warriors, I make us leaders, and they have their romantic story, but it doesn't define who they are.
Mm-hmm. No, I do appreciate that. When I write my fantasy, as you kind of said from the get-go, was there is certain like romantic vibes in it, or maybe even romances in it, but it's not a romance story. I'm not romantasy. That is not what I do. I have, aspects or, romances in it because there's a slice of life, and, that happens to most people to deal with some kind of romantic counterpart, but that is not the main theme. My focus are the adventures and the character struggle and what's going on in my fantasy world, universes, etc. And it's not really focused on the romance aspect. And so I definitely get that. Now, for your books, for your, you said the paranormal and supernatural, what about that kind of genre called you? When did you decide, ooh, I'm going to write a supernatural book?
Because I love all things creepy. Yes. I do. I love all things creepy. Stephen King was my all-time favorite author for many, many years. And I hate it that he's gone political in his most recent books because I'm really missing out on some. I don't want politics in my books. I live enough of it in my real life. I don't want it in my books. So I read to escape, not to stay drowned. Mm-hmm. So I've had to back off and find others, but I really loved the horror aspect of everything. If it was scary or creepy, and that's where the paranormal comes from, because I am fascinated by the spiritual realm. And it's like I just can't get enough of it. And of course, anything supernatural. So you give me superheroes, magic powers, anything like that, I'm all for it. I'm here for it.
That is really cool. So I guess, what kind of supernatural or paranormal elements are in your books? And I don't think I asked if they're like a one series or they're all standalones, but in your supernatural paranormal books, what makes them supernatural paranormal?
Well, it really just depends on the book. Like the one I'm really starting to push right now that I just actually stocked up and put in my TikTok shop is called The Tomb Reader. And my main character in that book has the ability to touch a tombstone and read that person's book of life. But she gets every point of view, everything the person lived through, everything that happened behind the scenes that they may not know about, everything that happened around that person's life, she knows. And so she uses this ability to write novels, and she labels them like historical suspense because she's writing about people who lived during the Civil War, who were in slavery, and it's her way of giving justice to these people who have a lot of untold stories. And that's one aspect of it. She does that's more of the paranormal, supernatural, psychic ability into things. And then I've got the zombie apocalypse series. My series, I write them more as like standalones, so you can read them out of order if you want. But or at least books 1 and 2. Once I get into book 3, you're gonna want to read them in order from that point forward. Because they're gonna start falling in line.
That is pretty neat. Now, I guess, how long of a series are you planning out? Do you know the end game yet, or are you kind of discovering that series along the way? Oop, I think you froze there for a second. Hopefully we'll get her back on. But let's see, give her a moment to see if we can get her back. Since she's frozen. But if anybody has any questions about books, writing, and all that jazz, throw them out in the comments. We'll see if I can pull her back in. I did see there was a lag there, so it may just be poor reception today. That is always a thing we had to face when we're doing these virtual lives. Right now, I know she was talking about her TikTok shop. I was, see if she sees my invite. I just got an order of my hardcover. Hello, hello? Let me see. I don't see you at this moment. I hear you though. Yeah, I noticed that, and sometimes that happens, and I don't never know if it's on my side or where that is. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I hear you. You are an invisible spirit right yourself right now. Let's see if we can get. That is very true. Very, very true. And I did see a comment pop up saying I need to look into the TikTok shop. Can you link that to Amazon, print on demand, or do you have physical copies at hand? So you were talking about your TikTok shop. I know while we're trying to get you up, you can, while I still actually have your voice, how do you run your TikTok shop for your books? And then I'll explain on my end. Did I lose her? Did I lose you? Okay, well, I'll explain on mine. I see we're having some issues. But yeah, so for me, the TikTok shop, what I do is I order authors' copies that I keep on hand, case in point of some of the books behind me. And so that's what I just got an order of a variety of my hardcovers to put in. And then I sell those, my physical copies, through the TikTok shop. Now, not everybody does it that way. I like to have the physical on hand stuff because when you're selling through that, they give you only so many days to turn your orders around. So or else you get penalized. So they're very, very, very strict about that. And because of that, I want to have them on hand and not worry that there's going to be an issue with printing and a delay, because if it doesn't meet the criteria, TikTok cancels it, and doesn't mean the order is not being sent or actually going through. But I've heard some authors have some issues when they try to route it a different way. I just prefer having it, but it does mean you have to have the physical space to have author stock on. Let's see if we get her back on. Here we go. We'll try to part two. We'll get this. Hello?
Okay. I have a voice, and I might have a camera here in a minute.
Perfect.
There we go. I have a camera.
Yay! And yeah, it just maybe just poor internet or whatever today.
Oh, definitely.
We'll do our best. We'll do our best. But yeah, I had someone ask while we were trying to figure things out, how do we set up and like run our TikTok shop in the sense of, do we keep authors' copies, or where do those books come from? So for you, do you keep authors' copies on hand for your TikTok shop?
I do. And that's why I've only got one of my 13 books listed in it, is because I'm having to stock those up right now. And I do have a website where you can go and buy them if you want signed copies from me, but you're going to have about a 6-week turnaround for print on demand. But what's in my TikTok shop will ship within 1 to 3 business days, just depending on how many there are that I have to fill each day. But I do keep them in stock, so they'll go out pretty quickly.
Oh, here's another interesting question that you might have your say about, and I'll answer as well. Which order method or book medium gets you the most profit? Okay, so how do you make the most profit? Is it direct sales? Is it through KDP or something like that? I'm assuming that is the question. So, and then what format? So ebook, hardcover, etc. So what about you? What works for you so far?
Well, for me, direct sales. Anything I can do on lives, if I can go to live in-person events, that works the best for me. Now, up until recently, I would do like the free ebook giveaways for my birthday, where I went in and made everything on Kindle free for like 3 days. But I won't be doing that anymore because a lot of my books have been pirated. through Kindle Unlimited, so I've removed everything from Kindle Unlimited. So once it expires, you'll have to either buy them on digital or in physical copies. But I mean, at least if somebody's going to pirate it anymore, they're going to have to actually pay for it at least once. So
yes, and that is one of the downsides of KDP is that is the easiest place for pirates to snag ebooks and then put them on their sites. And it's also, ironically, the one site that will penalize authors if they find your books on pirated sites, which is this wild scenario. And I also pulled away from KDP. And so my answer goes back, direct sales is currently the best way for me to make the highest profit margins. And so that's why TikTok Shop, I have a website shop that also sells a wider variety than what I have on the TikTok Shop, because on the TikTok Shop, they don't do ebooks yet, but on my website, I can do ebooks, and I'm going to hopefully expand into my audiobooks as well to offer more formats. But anything that's direct gives authors a higher cut because you cut out that middleman. So that's always nice. And as for formats, direct sales, a lot of people like signed copies, so I found the physical stuff works better, but depending on how you do it and what your genre is, some people, especially if you write romance, KDP is like king for romance writers, and they make a lot of money on it, but they acknowledges you have to be careful about plagiarism there. And then another comment on here. I love chatty groups. Another comment popped up saying, I wasn't sure if Amazon's print on demand is pretty fast. For me, it depends the time of year. Around Christmas, it's going to take forever, because what they do is if you're an author trying to get authors copies, they're going to put you below their regular print on demand, because anything that goes through Amazon is print on demand. But if you are a buyer, a person going on Amazon and like, oh, I like your book, I'm going to go click it and buy it, they're going to print out yours faster than they are an author. So if you're trying to get authors copies, plan around and understand when the holidays come around, it can bump up shipping from maybe a couple weeks to, I had almost 2.5 months for a large order around the holidays, and it was just miserable because I had to wait for it.
Yeah, for me, I just like around this time of year, it's perfect time. I just ordered 50 copies of the Tomb Raider, and I got it within weeks. Like, they're already here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
they're
this is
already
a great
here,
time. Oh yeah, this is a great time of year to order books, and that's why I'm trying to like budget to have the physical copies now, so I can have stock when it comes to the harder months to acquire it. But anyway, those are great questions, and always throw out some more on the way. But yeah, going back, so the paranormal, I like this idea of this. I've never heard of anybody say a tomb reader concept of any kind of medium or kind of like spiritual reader or anything like that. So that is a really cool concept. Like, where did that come from? Did you just like walk one day? And I used to live in New Orleans, so you had the beautiful mausoleums and be like, ooh, what if someone just touched the stone?
It's so funny you mentioned New Orleans, because that's where she goes. But anyway, the idea came, I was running a property in Fort Payne, Alabama, and Fort Payne is this beautiful little mountain town in Alabama, okay? And I'd gotten off work, and I had a gas station close to my house that I would stop at to get my coffee in the evening, and the sun was setting, and there's a cemetery, a really pretty cemetery, right beside the convenience store. I could see it off in the distance, and the narrator went off in my head. She thinks cemeteries are beautiful, and I was like, ooh. And it just kept going, so like I went in. I didn't just get coffee that day. I grabbed all the snacks and all the things and went back home and pulled out a fresh notebook, new paper, opened a whole new document, got my little outlining notebook out, and I started writing it. And that was how it developed. And it's literally just from looking at a cemetery at sunset. But I love how it works. Like, my inner narrator is wonderful.
That is cool, and it is very true for some authors, and I've had that experience where something hits you and you just can't get it out of your mind, and you need to like you're almost compelled to write it down. And so the first book that I ended up publishing, interestingly, not the first book that I thought about, but the first one I ended up sitting down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to write this and everything. It happened kind of similar that way. I had an idea coming to mind. It was based off a dream. and it was so vivid, I could not shake it, and it kept building out in my head and building out in the world and characters and the storyline, and I was just had to sit down and start writing. So I love that. I absolutely love that. And cemeteries can be very beautiful. I am an advocate for that. I do love a beautiful cemetery.
The cemetery aspect had to be incorporated in so many ways just because of how it began in my head, and then of course it developed into her reading the Book of Life through tombstones. But it's incorporated more in there. Like, she's actually known in the media as the cemetery writer because she goes out in this full 90s goth garb um, into cemeteries and writes all night in cemeteries and then sleeps during the day. It's like a whole marketing tactic that she uses and she's known for. Um, so it's incorporated in there very deeply. And I got so excited when this book idea came up because it was completely original. We always like to put our twist on vampires or zombies or something like that, but a completely 100% original idea is very rare and such a blessing. And I was so excited when it happened because I couldn't find it
So
anywhere else. I'm still looking around.
that's what I said. I've never heard of that exact concept. I mean, there are similar-ish things, but never anything about like the touch the of the tombstone and everything. There was interestingly a Korean movie, and one of the entities, this kind of other being, was able to kind of maintain and read everybody's lives based on the tree, essentially like a tree of life, but each person gets a leaf. And your leaf represents your whole life. And if you learn how to read it, you can read anybody's life and understand who the core properties were. But again, that was, I think it was a Korean TV show actually, and thought that was kind of very unique too. But it is always nice to hear something that is very new and fresh.
Oh yes, I got so excited with it, and I think I got to like chapter 17. I have it in my acknowledgement section of my book, but I believe it was chapter 17. I have a friend of mine who also writes novels, author Thomas Ryan, and I sent him a text at like 2 o'clock in the morning and said, "Oh my God, Ryan, I think I wrote the one, like the book." And I said, "But I need somebody else to read it because I think that about every book I write." So I sent it to him and he said, "It might take me a couple weeks." I was like, "That's fine. I'm still writing it." And he read the whole thing in a weekend. Like that Sunday, I got a message that says, "Is there any more?" It's like, "Because I think you're right." And I was like, "Hey," but I got so excited about it. And then, of course, I didn't do anything. It came out like December 23rd was my release date.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, I didn't really get to do a whole lot of promoting and marketing at that time. And I'm just now picking back up where I kind of had to leave off due to some medical things. But yeah, I got super psyched over it.
That is really cool. I see a comment pop up saying, this person has a very unusual twist on vampires. And that's the cool thing is like when you write lore that people kind of know, be it medium or contacting spirits or vampires or werewolves or any of these lore, that it's a great way to figure out how to market to a future reader. Because if you mention, oh, vampires, people who are excited about that, that niche are already on, into it, and then you're like, but the twist is ... and then everybody's like, ooh. It's a great way to start working on your marketing.
Yes. You give me a
So
twist on vampires, and I'm for it.
Yes, absolutely. And but yeah, so how do you reach your readers? Actually, that's a great question because some people struggle a lot, and some people just get it and figure it out pretty naturally early on. So how do you find readers, or are you still trying to discover that process too?
I'm in the process of discovering the process. TikTok has helped a lot. I was terrified of even getting TikTok because I'm not a camera person. I am a words and pictures person, but not pictures of me, pictures of everything else. Um, so I was, and my daughter actually told me, "You're just gonna have to step out of your comfort zone while you do it." She's like, because when Book Talk finds you, the world will find you. And I was like, are you serious? Because I mean, I'm 40. I'm like borderline Gen X. So I'm just like,
But yeah, this platform is one that is fantastic for that because the reading community who utilizes it is so vibrant, and they kind of like what your daughter said. You know, when Book Talk finds you, the world will find you, and that is true. I've seen it happen to many of my other bookish and author friends, and it is a fantastic thing. And yeah, the finding the readers is a process. It's something a lot of us do have to kind of learn and feel through, and even I feel like I have a lot to improve on in that kind of area as well. So I'm with you there.
it's actually been really good though, because one thing I have found is that with Book Talk, it's such an open community that just welcomes everybody. There's no such, I mean, there's diversity, but there's no such thing as anybody's different. It's like it's just one big community where everybody fits,
Hmm. I
and
do.
I love that. I love that because I haven't found anyone in this community, whether they're authors, whether they're reviewers, that have not welcomed me with open arms,
That's wonderful.
and I love it.
And it is scary because as writers, as authors, to try to put your heart and soul in a book and then try to share that with the world. You want to do that, but it is scary because what if you do bump into early on that one person who's just mean for the sake of being mean? It could be very crushing. So it is nice to have, areas that are, like you said, welcoming, comfortable, accepting. And I see a comment saying, I'm 57 and early Gen X, and TikTok does take some time getting used to. And that's true. That is true. And I know when
It
I
does.
finally made that jump, and I was reluctant for a little bit to join this community because I was on all these other platforms and trying really hard on them, but ended up taking my husband's advice, and he was just like, "You need to be on it. It's where the book people are." And I wasn't sure how I was going to feel trying to stare at a camera and talk about books, but it once you get over that hump, it's cool. There's a lot you can do with this.
Oh, absolutely. And I worked in between property management. I also did direct sales. Like I did a lot with Avon and Paparazzi and a few other companies over the years. And my husband told me, like back in 2019, why don't you just take everything you've learned from those companies and focus on your books? Why do you want to pay money to sell someone else's product when you've got a product? And that's kind of stuck with me because my husband does not read. He does not read. Okay. He hates books. He does not read. He's a gamer and an anime nerd. So I started doing that, and I got started with the audiobooks. And the audiobooks, that is where I found my challenging reviewer because I was taking those free promo codes to promote my books with. And I had one lady from the UK that was so critical. Like she was giving books that most people loved, like 2 and 3 star reviews. And I'm like, what is wrong here? So after I talked to her, I figured out I was like, she likes clean books. So I threw well, I say YA fantasy because it's so clean, but my main character in that book's actually like 25 years old. She's a 25-year-old police officer. So, um, but I sent her the promo codes for those 2 books, and I got 5 stars on both from her. So when I did that, I met a goal.
Hey,
Challenge
there you go.
accepted, and I won.
That is cool. And then that's smart for you to like pay attention to like certain reviewers, and if they like what they like, they like what they like. And if your books aren't exactly what they want, and you get a poor review because of it, it doesn't necessarily mean your work is bad. It just meant it wasn't that particular person's cup of tea. And it is smart to try to be
Exactly.
aware of that. But yeah, it is, and that's one of those things. Spicy people, there's definitely those who love spice and refuse to read anything else. There are people who like clean books, and that's all they want. They don't want anything else. And certain people like certain genres and age, and you just have to be aware. Woo,
Hmm.
sorry, Paula.
Like,
Still
like,
there? South. Pollen?
yeah. There's
Okay.
there's zero. There's zero spice in my fantasy series. Everything else, like my first two standalones, and my zombie apocalypse series, they have a little bit, but not a whole lot. It's like maybe a one, and then like the Tomb Raider has none. It's like my first adult book that has none. And it really didn't fit. It didn't fit with the story. It has to fit with the story. Um, so that has, but I really do think that a lot of people who don't like spice would actually like this if they like the paranormal. So, if paranormal is your thing, you definitely want to check that out, regardless of the spice quality in it or lack thereof, because you're going to miss a really great story. Um, you could make it happen in your own head while reading. It's fun.
Mm-hmm. And no, that is a thing. Is you have to kind of separate romance sometimes from what people expect, because there are some people who expect, like, and that is hard for paranormal, that now they're so used to hear PR that they assume all paranormal is going to have romance, and that's not true.
Right.
It's a big section of it, but it's not
Right.
true.
And see, like,
And I do. Yeah, continue.
yeah. And like in this one, like the whole plot of the story is that one of the books that this author wrote and labeled historical fiction, like, she did her due diligence. She went down the rabbit hole trying to find out if there were any live relatives or anything before she wrote it, and because there was literally nothing except maybe some old land plots from like the 1800s. She didn't change any names. She did the number one author no-no and didn't change any names or places or anything. And it just so happens there are descendants. And it is one of the wealthiest companies with the biggest corporations in the country. So they, of course, have hit her with a defamation lawsuit. And the whole point of the story is her trying to prove her innocence without having to tell the world her secret.
Wow. That is interesting. I do see a question pop up in the feed, and it was asking, when we're talking about the concept of different twists or things that are, not expected in a genre or subgenre, be it vampires or other creatures, how do you figure out how to market when it is not what is expected from that genre of the market? So do you have any recommendations at this point for something like that?
Well, I'm still having to figure that one out. Because, like, it when you're getting into like preferences, it gets really hard because you really want everybody to read your book, but you got to stick with the basics. Really, you want the people who like the good chilling ghost story for the haunted mansion book novel, So you market it in your genre, but make sure when you write your description, you put all the other little aspects in there that, like, my friend Miranda is the one who actually uh, coined me as the paranormal suspense writer with a healthy dose of romance. She pinned that so that romance is still incorporated into my books as it's a subgenre, but it's not the primary genre. And as soon as that got put into all my trailers and my ads and things like that, my sales went up and my my social media following went up and everything. So even though like I didn't want to put romance novels on my novels because I didn't want to be misleading,
Mm-hmm.
because they aren't primarily romance, but I did take her advice when she said you need to put it there because it is in there. And that's going to make people happy. You want to let people know it's there, even though some people get surprised. Everybody doesn't like surprise. I was like, okay, that makes a point.
And that is also a great point, because I also saw the same person posted was talking about that it's though the vampires are in there, didn't write it in the blurb, trying to keep it a surprise. But that's hard, because I know as an author you want to pitch your book a certain way and keep things a surprise,
Mm-hmm.
or the shock factor or the mystery factor or whatever. But if it's something that will lure a whole audience in, it kind of does need to be mentioned or alluded to in the blurb, because the blurb is your sales pitch online. And so and you may have to rewrite your blurb and try different things and test out a variety of different ways online to figure out what sells the best. And it may not be what you wanted it to sound like. And the same thing goes for anything like ad text or posts, just general marketing posts. It's you're trying to sell your work, and sometimes the way to sell your work may not be what you originally want, but you have to do what's best for your book, which is, pitch it how you're going to pitch to get sales. And I know there is a book, I'm trying to see, I don't have it in my new office yet, but it was called, I'm going to try to recall it. I can't think of the title as eludes me. But the point of this book is the concept that there are these universal themes that people are attracted to. And if you figure out like what your universal themes are, and mention them, even if they're like subplots or subplots, when someone is like, ooh, I like that, or they're drawn to that, and you mention that in your blurb somehow, you'll get a bunch of people buying your book who may not necessarily would have bought your specific genre otherwise. And you could potentially expand the readership that you get, because you're reaching new readers, because you're marketing aspects of the book that may not be the main themes, but they're some of the one-off themes or side character ideas, and people are drawn to them. And it is kind of an interesting way to approach marketing your books. But I know on here, and then we'll move on to another topic. But on this particular platform, I see a lot of people, when they have unusual books that are not exactly fitting 100% in one category, they come up with these videos where it's like, if you like this book and this kind of aspect from this book, and mix it together with this aspect from this book and this movie and this thing, you come up with your book. And that may be all you need to do for a platform like this, where it's like, well, what if you like the spirit realm, but someone who can read, and you find little things from different books and mash them together to explain yours in some way. And people are really intrigued with that kind of line of thinking at this moment. Sorry, that was a ramble.
No, you're good. It was a very informative ramble, so that was a good thing.
And I'm shaming myself for not remembering that particular book about the universal themes, but it'll come to me after I'm off this, and I'll be like, ooh, that's what it was called, because I have it somewhere. But in the moving process, it still hasn't made it to the shelves that I've yet to install. Anywho, so going back to you, I actually, since the hour is starting to slip by, I want to make sure that people are aware, where outside of Book Talk are you around? Do you have a website? Are you on any other socials? Do you have a newsletter? Where can people find and follow you outside of this platform?
So outside of the platform, I am on all the socials except Snapchat. I'm not using Snapchat. I draw the line. But I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter or X. I still can't get used to calling it X. But all of them are author Dianah Brock, except for my X profile, which is Dianah B_books. And then I do have a website, which is pretty easy, DianahBrockBooks.com. Just don't forget the H in Dianah, or you won't find it. So I do have the website. It hasn't come up yet. I had to take it down and make some fixes there. So it will relaunch here in about a week, and then it will be there. You can sign up for the newsletter, because I will have a newsletter. I do have a blog section that's coming up on that website, and it will have a sneak peek from all the books. So you will get the title, you can read the blurb, and then you can read the prologue, the first 1 to 2 chapters. And then it will have a purchase link on there that will take you to Amazon if you're more comfortable buying from Amazon. If you want a signed copy and want to order it from my website, then you can do that, or they will also be in the TikTok shop.
That's perfect. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was my second question, is where can people actually get your books? So Amazon, your personal shop on your website, and the TikTok shop. Anywhere else are your books found, or are those locations the main ones?
Currently that's it until I get done with the deals for some of the smaller independent bookstores. Um, oh, that's going to be an exciting one. We're going to have to do this again because I'm going to tell you all about this whole author becoming the distributor for the bookstores, because so far the small little mom and pop shops I'm finding around the South are loving it. So we're going to have to talk about that one later.
We can talk about it now if you want to. That is cool. So how is that working?
Uh, well, it's under a trial run because I wanna definitely say it's gonna work before I tell people to do it.
Okay.
Um, and it's one that I actually kind of put together for me to stock books, because what I want to do is eliminate distributors from getting indie author published books. And anybody who actually follows me, who's seen the videos that I posted over the past couple of months, they saw I was in the process of opening an indie author bookstore. However, medical issues happened, which causes other issues. And so now I'm not going to be able to do that until I raise a lot of money. But in the process of trying to stock up for that, I am going to try to boot up at least a digital version next year so that you can just shop online for indie author books. And they will hopefully already be signed and everything. But it's a purchasing process where, because we have that print pricing that we're offered from like KDP to buy our books. So it's a markup system where you can order directly from the author and the author will send them directly to you. And they already get paid. So basically when you send them the money to place this order, they get paid when they place the order. And it's a markup system there. And I've actually offered that to a few of the mom and pop shops around here. Some that aren't even bookstores, but they're, just like odds and ends thrift stores. They're actually stocking them too. Now it's smaller orders, 10 to 20, but 10 to 20 books is actually pretty good. Especially when you're starting from nothing in stock to 10 to 20 per person. That does help a lot to at least bring in that money to start stocking your own personal like TikTok shop or website store or whatever. So yeah, I'm definitely, once I get through the trial run and see how it goes, because I want to word back on the return for the for the businesses themselves. I want to see, how that worked out for them as far as being able to sell them, because what it does is it gives them more room for pricing for those, so they're not gambling as much on that indie author book as they would if they ordered it from Amazon. Because if they order it from a business account on Amazon, they only get a 25% discount. 25% is not a huge discount to gamble with, and they're non-returnable.
Yeah.
So you're really asking them to take more than a gamble. It's way out in left field when it comes to indie authors who are not as well known as like Stephen King or Laurel K. Hamilton. Yeah. So, but it's trying to get our foot in the door of bookstores. And eventually I will have my indie author book cafe, because that's going to be the purpose of it. Yes, but it's going to be in Indiana. It'll be in Georgia and Indiana, but it's going to happen. I will find out a way. If I have to do a Kickstarter, I'll find out a way.
Hey, I'm an advocate of Kickstarter, even though I'm still learning that game because it's yet another platform and to figure out. But the more and more authors take advantage of it, and the more successful Kickstarters that come out of it, I think are validating that is a viable place for the bookish community to go find books, support people, and get some really cool goodies on the side. And I know later on this week, I have to start, because I ran a Kickstarter a little earlier this year, that I now have to go and start bundling some of because I'm doing some handmade gifts and thank yous for my supporters that I get a kind of craft. I have a bookish craft time, so I might jump on a live and be like, this is bookish craft time. Come and hang out with me while I'm doing stuff for my Kickstarter book boxes.
So I was doing that earlier, and anybody that wants to go into my TikTok shop and look, the Tomb Raider's in there right now for $10. And it's because while I was on a live trying to do my first live book signing, and I opened it up and just happened to see on the acknowledgments and dedication page that there was a horrible misprint right here. with a marginal error on just those two sections. I don't know how it happened because everything else is perfect. But right there, all 50 books. It looks like the words were cut off. All the words are there, but it looks horrible. So I was like, well, time to make them $10 imperfect copies and try again.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like,
So
and
okay.
there are definitely people who will take advantage of an imperfect copy as long as you can guarantee you're not missing a page or anything like that or sections. But as in like, okay, because I got an order of hardcovers and there's like some of them are kind of dinged and I'm like, well, if they're not something that I'm proud of, I don't really want to sell it at the normal price. So discount it and say, hey, here's the reason why. I one time had a book that I was printing out in a glossy format, and they sent me matte covers, which is very different because that's not the way it's marketed, or I don't know why they did that. So I have like a bunch of odd matted ones. And we're like, hey, same book, just the wrong, cover design. Who knows? But yeah, you can always send those imperfect books out and see if anybody takes you up. And at least for us, compensate some of the costs that we did for printing. And for everybody else, hopefully they get a discounted book that they enjoy just as much because the story's all there.
Yeah, I mean, they will get the book. The whole story's there. They'll get the bookmark with the book. I'll still sign the book. The only difference is I am reserving all the stickers and things I bought for the print perfect copies. Whether they are editions. Because we'll be stocking all of them. But these are just the white pages regular paperbacks that are imperfect.
And as long as
I was really
specific about it. Whoop, I think you're starting to break up a little bit. Hopefully I can get... Oh, there you are. Hi! We're back. You froze there for a second, and I kind of... I'm good. But let me ask, while we still have you, because I never know, like, again, with service right now, they were perfect. Okay, that's funny. Are there books that were perfect that still find errors? Yes, you'll always find an error. I feel like that's the way to go. Doesn't matter how much you edit or how many editors or how many eyeballs are looking at your thing. Even the trad books, errors pop up. It's irritating. The nice thing about being indie is we can go online and make the correction and go live with the new updated version pretty easily.
That's what I'm looking at right now. I'm got my document open and I'm trying to figure out why are the margins not cooperating with me, because every time I change it, the dedication and acknowledgments page right now are not moving, but the story is. So right now I've got like this huge 1.5-inch margin gap, it seems like, from the edge of the page. So everything's like, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad I have not saved this yet, because my manuscript would be toast.
Formatting can be very frustrating. I know I've downloaded Atticus, that platform, to try to help me with taking more control of formatting myself, rather than having other people help with that and figure that all out. But another platform to like learn how to use, and I'm going to have to find some time to play with that, though I've heard good things about Atticus. But before
there are too many.
That's true. Before the time runs out or I lose you, I do want to make sure I also ask, and this goes for anybody also in the comments and hanging out with us, is there any topic that you wanted to cover that we didn't get a chance to cover at this moment, or any questions that you had that you didn't get a chance to ask? So this goes for you, Dianah, or anybody else.
No, I think I'm good. I'm watching the chat.
I love it. But how about this? I don't know if you showed me, and you mentioned that you have your books here. I don't think you showed us the cover of your book. There we go.
It's beautiful.
That is a hauntingly beautiful cover.
I'm very proud of my skills that have developed over the years. My first self-published book, oh my lord. I look at it now and I'm like, why did I ever agree to publish that with that cover?
It does happen. Hey, so
now they're good.
Hey, and again,
they're all perfect.
Yes, if you ever want to change the covers, you can do that. Go back and have a second release or a second cover release. So you can always update.
Oh yeah, I'm working on that with my first one. My first book was called The Story of Michelle Brown Vanderveer, and it was published by one of those scam vanity presses. I will not mention their former name or new name, but because they are very much still in business. But when my 7-year contract finally went up on that one, I redid it, and of course, you're not going to find it if you search it with Dianah Brock in Amazon. It's under my my actual name, but I'm working on changing that. I just happened to notice that my file, for some reason, for my manuscript was incomplete, and I'm having to take it from the PDF version and try to get it all worked back out and reformat it because right now it's just a cluster of words down every page.
Fun.
But
So
yeah, it's been a nice little mess trying to get that fixed. Again,
I mean,
formatting.
Yep. And that's the thing is like, and I saw the comment about using Word, and that's kind of what I've used in the past or had people utilize with Word, which is fantastic and everything. But I'm trying to up my game. I really do want to make sure I start embedding like new fonts for like title cards and like images, and just trying to elevate some of my future books as I go forward. So that's why I'm kind of curious about platforms like Atticus, because it's a little harder to do on Word and something like that. But do you in your interior, how are you pretty much straight laced with how you format your book, or do you like to put in and insert fancier material as well?
Right now, it's pretty standard, except for like my page numbers. Right now I have them in like this cute little ribbon. In this book, instead of just like a page number thrown in the corner or something. But the thing I'm noticing being on Book Talk and as I'm scrolling is like first I found black page editions, right? And I finally found an author who told me how to do it. So I have my books coming out in black page editions. But now I'm seeing black page editions with pretty little scrolling art all over the pages that are in white. And I'm like, now how do I do that? I don't think I'm going to be able to do that in Word.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to learn how to do all the things and make them gorgeous, like gorgeous special edition.
Yep, that is definitely some other kind of stuff that I'm trying to like get into, as again, whenever I find this time to like invest in like learning some of this other stuff. But it would be theoretically really kind of cool to get into some of the more again, I don't know how to elevate it, formatting where it looks really neat, or embedding like images in them that are like artwork images. But we will see, one step at a time. The most important thing is write the book. And I'm saying this because I have to yell at myself because I've been very bad about writing new material recently. I've been doing everything else, but I need to write the book.
3 incomplete series that need to be finished. And I'm currently going, no. I'm currently looking at them going, oh, what? Because originally I wanted to release one from this series, one from this series, and one from this series. And now that's not working with my brain anymore. So now I need to finish this series before I finish this one. And yeah, it's author brain. Forget author math, it's author brain. Author brain is the problem that you have to figure out.
So our question, where do they do the books with patterned or colored page edges? Now, if you're turning the external one, a lot of people do sprayed edges either themselves, or they pay someone to batch a bunch of their books who know how to do the actual sprayed edge technique. If you're talking about, I also talked to an author who figured out, I don't know how, she said there's some kind of weird YouTube, I think, on it, but how to edge the paper with like the printed ink, so then when you close it, it has a pattern on the side. Now that I have no idea. That one I would have to look into, but there are platforms like I think Atticus does some of it, and Vellum does a little bit for the interior stuff. So if you wanted to put in and embed pretty title pages or chapter headings and stuff like that. But when it comes to sprayed edges and things like that. Either you have to teach yourself or you can pay someone to do it for you. I don't know. I think it would be really cool to have sprayed edges on my books. Another thing to learn another time.
Yes. I will do it for the Mysteria Chronicles once I finish them. That's my fantasy series. I'll do it once I finish all of them. So when I have all 5 books done, then I'll do some sprayed edge or something to that. But I'm not touching that until then. You're just getting black pages for now.
Hey, that's pretty cool too. So, anything that's a little edgy, and there are those readers who will buy every edition of their favorite, works. And so anytime there's like, a special cover or limited edition exclusive, and they'll be like, take my money. I did that for one of my friends. He ran a Kickstarter just to have the beautiful special release. And they were so pretty, and I was like, take my money. I want that book cover.
It's funny you said that. When you get time, go on TikTok and search Book Goblin.
Book Goblin. Oh, I love Book Goblin.
Yes.
There's like a whole series of them. But yeah, I do like the concept of the Book Goblin, that one woman who does it so well.
Yeah. It was so great. Viking Funeral.
Yes, and that would be perfect for me because I had so many people send me that particular one with the Book Goblin's Viking Funeral, because one of my book series is Viking fantasy, and I was like, ooh, and I'm obsessed with anything to do with Norse mythology or the Viking era, so I was like, ooh, can this actually happen one day? Hopefully not in a long, long time, but one day, can I be sent off in a Viking funeral?
Right, with all my special editions. Although I do frown on burning books, but is it really bad if you're doing it for the purpose of a Viking funeral?
Yeah, take it with you to the afterlife. I claim all my special editions are coming with me. I don't need any food or anything else, just the books. Anywho, but yeah, thank you guys I'm saying you guys because I see that there's still a bunch of us hanging out right now, but thank you everybody for coming out and hanging out this hour. Since the hour's wrapping up, I know it's about time. That means I have to tend to my dog, who I'm surprised didn't walk in here because he's a very large creature. To like knock anything over. And for you, Dianah, thank you for hanging out. And if you ever want to do one of these again, I do them weekly. I schedule them in advance, but I do try to do them weekly. So yeah, and I'm glad also. Sorry, what?
I'm gonna try to start filling up my calendar, hopefully, with different interviews and stuff to try to get more of a following.
Yeah, and what I will do, and I try to do this with everybody, if this platform allows. Sometimes it's not nice, but if it allows, I'll try to repurpose this and post this on my YouTube channel, and I'll put all your tags below. So hopefully, again, going forward, more people can find you, follow you, and read your books.
I cannot wait to start signing these.
I love it.
I cannot wait.
And for everybody who's been joining us, thank you again. But I have to go back and again probably write something new. But bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thanks. Bye.